Lord God, we thank you so much tonight for the privilege and opportunity to gather together. We ask that you will give us quick minds to think, to make good choices and decisions, and above all, empower us to stand up in our community and declare, oh God, your holy word and directions for us. We're deeply concerned, oh God, just to read the amendment that is being proposed to us for this coming fall, and for the way it speaks against what you have taught us in your word, how you have called us to live, and what you expect of us. And we ask you to move upon us as conservative people, that we will stand up, that we will be heard, and that we will have influence in this coming fall in the decisions that are made. Bless us tonight as we dialogue together, and make it profitable in Christ's name. Amen. Amen.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight. We start by recognizing our elected officials. And we have Rebecca Schmellick from our Central Committee. And that's about it. Announcements. This Friday, June 14th, is Flag Day. It's also Trump's birthday. So we're having a flag wave at the Christopher Crossing overpass. Break out your old glory and your best Trump swag, and please join us. It starts at 4 p.m. and we'll probably go to about 5:30 or 6. Also on the 14th, Neil Parrott is having a fundraising dinner and silent auction at the CCACC Art Gallery, 9318 Gaither Road, Gaithersburg, Maryland. Tickets start at $100 and go up from there. If you're able to, we encourage you to get out there, support Neil. The event is from 5 until 8 p.m. Also for Neil Parrott, on Wednesday, June 19th, which I will not be here for, he is having another fundraiser locally, which is more my speed, an evening in the country, taking place at 8423 Water Street in Water Street Road in Walkersville. Food is provided by Papa O's Barbecue and Catering. Tickets are again $100 per person or $175 per couple, with sponsorships available. Both events are listed on winred.com or on Neil's website. Now my opening remarks. We're in deep trouble. Our nation is facing challenges that strike at the very core of our identity and values. Today I want to address 4 critical issues: the weaponization of our legal system, the erosion of gender distinctions, men competing as women in sports, and the pervasive problem of voter fraud, or vote fraud, excuse me. Voters don't commit fraud. It's on the other end. First, let's talk about the weaponization of our legal system. The principle of blind justice is being compromised with the judiciary increasingly used as a tool for political vendettas. This undermines the very foundation of our democracy. When legal actions are pursued, not based on merit, but on political bias, it erodes the public trust in our institutions. This dangerous trend threatens the principle that everyone is equal under the law. It must be confronted and reversed to restore faith in our justice system. Secondly, we're witnessing an aggressive push to remove gender from nearly every aspect of our lives. This move towards genderless society is not just a cultural shift, it is an assault on a biological reality and common sense. Gender distinctions are fundamental to our identity and social structures. Ignoring these distinctions confuses our children, undermines family values, and disrupts the natural order. We must respect and celebrate the differences between men and women, understanding that these differences do not diminish equality, but rather enrich our society. Excuse me. This leads me to the issue of men competing as women in sports. Allowing biological men to compete in women's sports is not only unfair, but it's also harmful. It undermines decades of progress made in women's athletics and denies female athletes the opportunity to compete on a level playing field. This policy disregards the inherent physical advantages that men typically have over females. We must protect the integrity of women's sports by ensuring that competitions are fair and that female athletes have the space to excel without facing insurmountable biological disadvantages. How many are aware that there was a Miss Maryland pageant this weekend? And we know that there's a transgender male that won Miss Maryland.
No comment, huh?
Well, on a little side note, our Vice President, Seth Eisenberg, who cannot be here tonight, got his application to apply for Miss Maryland next year. So, he will be the first one to register. Lastly, we must address the pervasive issue of vote fraud. Free and fair elections are the cornerstone of our democracy, which is actually a republic, not a democracy. Typo on my part. However, instances of vote fraud, whether through illegal voting, tampering with ballots, or other means, threaten the legitimacy of our electoral process. When citizens lose confidence in the integrity of elections, we lose faith in our very essence of democracy. We must implement stringent measures to protect our voting systems, ensuring that every legal vote is counted and that illegal activities are swiftly and effectively addressed. Together, these issues represent a profound threat to the fabric of our society. The weaponization of the legal system, the erasure of gender distinctions, the unfair competition in women's sports, and vote fraud all undermine the principles of fairness, justice, and equality that are fundamental to our way of life. But we are not powerless. We can stand against these trends by advocating for and demanding policies that uphold justice, respect biological realities, protect the integrity of sports, and ensure fair elections. It is our duty to speak out, to engage in the political process, and to hold our leaders accountable. Let us commit to restoring the values we have made that have made our nation strong. Let us fight for a society where justice is blind, gender is respected, sports are fair, and the elections are free and fair. Together we can overcome these challenges and preserve the principles that define our republic. Pause. Thank you. And I'm sorry, I'm old, I have forgotten your name already. I know your name is Ms. Mooney. So Ms. Mooney, would you come up and introduce our guest tonight?
Hello, my name is Liz Mooney, and I'm the president of the local Students for Life group, and I'm also on the advisory board at Frederick County Right to Life. Today, Frederick County Right to Life is asking you all to join us to fight against the Reproductive Freedom Amendment. We must do whatever we can to try and destroy this amendment. Mr. John Miller is the president of Frederick County Right to Life, and he is an amazing advocate for life. He will be speaking to you all about what the Reproductive Amendment is and what it entails for all Maryland citizens. Thank you very much.
was never that mature at 15. Actually, I don't think I became that mature until about 6 months ago. Never fails to amaze me. Your mom, by the way, Pam, was with us. She's on the board of directors of Frederick County Right to Life, so we are blessed to have a couple of powerful Moonies with us. Strap on your seatbelts. How many people know about the Reproductive Freedom Amendment? That's typical. Most conservative Republicans, conservative anybody, centrists, most people don't know about it. It's on the November election, as you probably have heard. Well, you heard from Liz. When I say strap on your seatbelts, I'm serious. You're going to be shocked when you hear the things that that amendment can do. The odds are it will pass. It's been in 7 states already, and the amendment on the ballots. It's passed in every one, including Ohio in November, a red state. And that was a shocker. Maryland's one of the 5 worst states for protecting innocent life in the country. We're on par with China and North Korea for what we allow in abortions, assisted suicide. Well, no, not actually. Let me back up. We have been able to defeat assisted suicide, but it's hovering around. It was expected to pass this year through Maryland Right to Life's efforts and lobbying, tremendous amount of time. They were able to defeat assisted suicide for the 7th or 8th year. So what they do is tremendous. The Maryland Right to Life is working with a coalition with Health Not Harm. Thank you. Thanks, Fred. Is this off? Now it is. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. My voice obviously doesn't carry as well as Liz's. In November, we're going to be voting. All Marylanders, well, not all Marylanders. If all Marylanders voted, we probably have a better chance of defeating it. But fighting this Reproductive Freedom Amendment, what do you think of when you hear reproductive freedom? Anybody have a thought what hits you when you hear that? I think of abortion.
Yeah, nowadays abortion.
This would certainly enshrine abortion into the Maryland Constitution, but it's not going to change much about abortion other than removing the age it's allowed now at 12 years of age for a young mom to have an abortion. If this passes, there'll be no minimum age. No minimum age to change gender. And you heard Fred talk about what's being taught in schools in Frederick County, Montgomery County, and most of the state. Beginning in kindergarten, a teacher they have a child says, well, gosh, I think I'm a boy. Kids are hearing about this stuff. I feel like I should be a boy. Well, okay, you can change. That can be changed. Counselors can refer a kid, almost an infant, obviously that's an exaggeration, but they can refer without parents' notice for abortions, and they can refer in the back door for gender change. If this passes, there'll be no hiding it. You don't have to hide it. No minimum age for a child to have an abortion or gender change. It's passed, as I said, in 7 states. If we can stop it in Maryland, because Maryland's recognized, as I say, it's one of the 5 worst states. If we can stop it in Maryland, it'll send reverberations across the country, literally, believe me. Not literally, but it certainly will do that. Because nobody expects it to be defeated in Maryland. Maryland's as bad as they come. How would they possibly lose this amendment? It can be done, though, but we need everybody's help. Back in '91, this is why I'm saying it won't change too much for abortion if it passes, because abortion since '91 has been legal up to birth. Up to birth. All 9 months for 33 years now. a mom, actually back then it was 16 years or older, a young mom could have an abortion, and there was ways to get around it without asking the parents. Your child wants an abortion, is this okay? Well, this certainly would be real easy if this amendment passes. What changed was Maryland came from an extremely liberal state. I don't, anybody know how long it's been Democrats have so controlled the Annapolis? I know in my 60-some years as a person that was following politics, even when I was in Virginia for 25 years, I know Maryland was a liberal state, but it just seems like my whole life it's been liberal. And right now we're outnumbered 3-1 in Annapolis. 3-1. So when you think about things not being able to be passed pro-life wise, it never even comes out of committee in Maryland. They block it from even getting a vote on it. And you can't do anything about it, 3-1. Anyway. Back in 2021 is when it started changing even more. That's when they reduced the age, the minimum age, to 12 for a young girl to have an abortion. I'm going to have to put this up here so I can see some of this. That ain't going to work either. Okay. What it does, basically, if I could read that, it'd be better, a little bit better, but what it does is it also can take parents' rights away, but again, it's a little bit harder than if this abortion passes, if this amendment passes. It can just change the whole culture in the state, even worse than it is now. That's why I say when I say strap your seatbelt on, we need to really strap our seatbelt on and get down into the dirt and fight with these people. We just can't let it go by. We just can't give up on it. The Abortion Care Access Act of 2022, I'm sorry, I should be out front. Remove the physician, actually I can be out front. With this mic, thank you, Fred. Oops. It removed, obviously, the physician requirement to provide these abortions. It's provided now. If any one of you wanted to do abortions in Maryland, you just need training. And you can do an abortion. It's not for doctors, it's training. In Annapolis, they passed it 2 years ago, $3.5 million every year in the budget, every year, to train people. I'm saying off the street, that's obviously not right, but we have no idea how they're doing it. We don't know if it's 1 month training, 4 months training, we have no idea. It's not reported. We don't even know if they've started this yet. In 2 years, we're pretty sure they have. This year, Governor Moore tripled that. So now it's over $10 million a year in our budget to train people who aren't have no medical background. I mean, potentially a barber, potentially an engineer who's whatever. I mean, it could be anybody that trains to get these abortions. Strap on your seatbelts. Medicaid must pay for abortions, not just for Maryland. Anybody coming from another state for an abortion, again, if this goes through, right now Medicaid still has to pay for abortions. But if it goes through, somebody can come in from West Virginia where they don't allow abortions or gender change. Medicaid, we'd be paying up to 70% of that Medicaid cost through your taxes and mine. All health insurance providers have to pay. No co-pays or deductibles. Now that doesn't come out of our taxes, fortunately. But
Comes out of our bridges.
yes, thank you. Thank you, Fred. You're right. I hadn't thought about that. I'll have to add that to my notes. I have to stop and think sometimes because I feel like with everything that's happened in the last 20 years, especially the last 10 years, most especially the last 3 years, I feel like I've stepped into the twilight zone and
Yes.
this can't possibly be America. It cannot be America. How can Americans do this? How can they allow it? Why don't they go out and vote against it? You probably know the numbers better than I do, I would imagine. The small percentage of Republicans even that votes. With this raising our taxes, my friend Tony Smellick has had experience. I have business cards over here. Frederick County Right to Life bought 5,000 of these. The paper you have in front of you, that little flyer, these summarize it briefly. But these, Tony handed this to a couple people who support abortion, but when they found out their taxes would pay for it, they're not going to vote for the amendment. But we've got to get these things in people's hands. I had an appointment with a pulmonologist today over on Guilford Drive. And whenever I go to a doctor's office, my pockets are full of these cards. And I go to every restroom, not every restroom, I go to the men's restrooms in each of the floors and put them in the restrooms. I put them on where the water fountain is. I put them on each water fountain. If people can see and understand and become aware of this, we have a shot. But we've got to get them in as many hands as is humanly possible through all of you, through everybody Tony and I talk to. This is Liz's first time introducing me, but we've just got to get in everybody's hands. They've got to understand the purpose of this amendment truly, again, is not about abortion. It's about taking away parents' rights. It will do that. It hasn't been on the agenda, on a ballot in Indiana or Montana. But both of those states have each had one couple, one family that had a child taken away from them because they wouldn't call their daughter Jane, say she's Jane, they wouldn't call her Bill because she thinks she's a boy. She feels like she should be a boy. They had them taken to social services. The same thing in Montana. Strap on your seatbelt. I just can't get over it. Again, Twilight Zone keeps running through my mind. I used to be a fan of Twilight Zone. I guess that's why. I don't know. I've already mentioned this $3.5 million to train non-medical people in abortion. This year, there was a Trans Health Equity Act, so we couldn't discriminate providing drugs and surgeries for gender-affirming care, including puberty blockers for kids starting at 12. This amendment goes through, it could be a 5-year-old. There's no minimum age for gender change or abortion, none. Again, Medicaid must pay for the drugs and the surgeries. Even up to 70% people coming from out of state. There were a number of amendments when this was being passed last year. There were a number of amendments that were pushed by the Republicans. Every one of them were defeated. We just didn't have the votes. Outnumbered 3-1. We didn't have the votes. So they were suggesting no, that's not the one. They were suggesting at least make a minimum age of 12. Don't let it be not a minimum. Let's say it has to be 12 years old before you do this. Remove the gender. It was 4 different things. It'll come up in a minute, but every one of them was easily voted down by the Democrats. We knew it wasn't going to go, but you have to make that effort and hope that people, some of the Democrats, will have some common sense and some morality to realize what is happening. Kids' lives can be ruined forever and changed forever in a negative way, so badly. The Constitution will be amended to say, and this is from the bill, this is from 2023 when it was approved, passed, every person as a central component has the right to liberty and equality and a fundamental right to reproductive freedom, including but not limited the ability to make decisions to prevent, continue, or end one's own pregnancy. But they're saying reproductive freedom amendment, it's not identified. Scott?
As you discuss a 12-year-old having an abortion, I just wonder, how do they address that when that person is under the age of consent?
Right now, well, actually, even in here, this amendment, it does say, it's very weak how it says parents' approval. And you'll see in a second, I think the next slide or the one after, where actually even the people are being trained who aren't doctors can make a decision. Well, this 12-year-old girl, or this 11-year-old girl in some cases, she's mature enough to handle this. Or she's saying she's scared to death of her parents. They're going to beat her or something, she's saying. So that non-medical person, or even a doctor, can make the change and say, well, we don't have to tell your parents, don't worry about it. So, it's tough one, Scott. Did that answer your question?
Well, not really, because it seems like they're picking and choosing the laws they want to go with. Traditionally, we've had something called age consent, which varies from state to state. But with that, you have to say at a certain age a person is a maturity. Legally, to enter a contract, it's 18 years old. But age of consent varies all over. But there is something called an age of consent. You can't say, hey, my 6-year-old has the maturity to decide what his sex is going to change to, or if he has the maturity to be gay, lesbian, straight, or have sex at all at an age below a certain age. So I don't see how they can do that, because they're picking and choosing the laws they want us to follow, and they're ignoring what's on the books.
Exactly. The Democrats control it. Governor Moore controls it through the Secretary of State. She was former Senator Lee, who started promoting this amendment 5 years ago. She and Governor Moore will be the ones who will write the wording. And by the wording, people will never have any idea what it's saying. Scott, did that help any at all?
Yes.
Thank you. This is how this is likely, very likely, with the ballot question, how it will be written. It's been written very similar to this in all 7 states. But it's going to be written as such, and it's going to be advertised through millions and millions of dollars on TV and other media, saying your taxes won't go up, you won't lose parents' rights. It's been done in 7 states. It's been lies in 7 states. Millions of dollars have been coming in Ohio from Norway and Sweden. It's the first I've heard of those. I think of George Soros and Gates and Zuckerberg and people like that. But Sweden and Norway were pouring millions of dollars into Ohio for these incredibly expensive ads that we can't to fight those kind of numbers. We just don't have the money to fight that. So it's going to be confusing. I'm not going to read that to you, but if you want to take a second and read it, but that's basically going to look very much like that. And the average person who's in the middle, a lot of people you probably all know, friends, relatives, I'm against abortion, but I think the woman should have the choice. And if they read it where it's not clear, they're going to vote, yeah, put it in. Put it in, for crying out loud. They're not going to know any better. And if we don't reach them before they go into the polling place or vote by mail, absentee ballot. If we don't reach them, the majority are going to do that. If we can't reach them like Tony has with a couple of pro-abortion people and let them know your taxes are going to go up, your premiums are going to go up for your insurance. Thank you again, Fred, for that. I just never made that connection. These are the ones I was mentioning before that were coming up. They were asking, the Republicans were asking the Democrats 2 years ago when it was being approved, or last year when it was being approved, would you at least change the word person for an individual to a woman? I mean, it makes it sound like it's not addressing kids. If somebody doesn't read it clearly and realize there's no minimum age for gender change or abortion, they're not going to be thinking that. Who in their right mind would be thinking that would be okay? And Fred talked about what's being taught in our schools. Who in their right mind thinks that's okay to tell these kids about that, about different acts of sex beginning in middle school? I don't know. Strap our seatbelts on, guys, all of us. Guys and gals, I'm sorry. Please exclude the minors from the amendment. Please didn't. Not surprising. I'm not sure. I'm acting like it should have been, would have been. Replace reproductive freedom with abortion. Match the ballot language to the amendment language. Don't people have a right to know what it is before they vote? Not according to the Democrats, apparently.
They're afraid of the voters.
They're afraid of the voters, you're right.
They're going to make it as ambiguous as they can.
Exactly, Fred, exactly. This is what I mentioned earlier. They're just saying person instead of an individual or a woman or a man. Reproductive freedom, reproductive liberty. Again, nobody really could answer that question. What does it mean to you? What do you think about that? And I guess because I've been dealing with, like Becky and Tony and Pam and now Liz, been dealing with these issues so long, we think reproductive freedom, right away my mind goes to abortion. And now it's got to go to a gender change. Yes, ma'am.
They don't include the freedom to have a baby. Right?
You're
You're
right.
not free for that. They only want you to get rid of, kill your baby.
John, I don't know if you want to live at the press conference Wednesday. They're new.
Thank you.
I don't know if you wanted to talk about it later or whatever. They have a different slant at this press conference that's going to happen about the 14th Amendment. So maybe at the end, if you
Ooh,
wanted to
I
talk
didn't
about
realize that was the change. Liz, as I mentioned already, again, that was Pam, her mom. Liz, as member, president of Students for Life through Arch in Frederick, which is a homeschool group, she's been asked by Students for Life to speak at a live news conference. I guess we'd all be live, wouldn't they? At a news conference in D.C. And Live Action is doing the news conference. But Liz, if you would, in a few minutes, if you can give a summary on that, as long as you need. They've given us plenty of time, so there's absolutely no rush. Thank you, Pam. Appreciate you bringing that up. Okay, what's the harm? Well, the biggest would be losing parental rights. And once you all know this, once an amendment is passed, it's next to impossible to change it. It would never, ever be changed in my lifetime. There's no doubt about that. And when Maryland could ever possibly reverse the numbers to have some shot at having an honest election, or not, well, that too, but an honest vote in a chance of voting something pro-life in Annapolis, it'll never happen. You need 3/5 to change it, as you know, 3/5 of both houses, House and the Senate, to change the amendment, but then it has to be voted on in the next election. I don't know, Tony, Becky, Pam, Liz, you guys ever see the possibility, if it goes through, of being overturned? I just don't see it. You just can't see Maryland turning that completely around from an incredibly ultra-liberal state to even somewhat centrist state. I don't know. It isn't looking good. It actually can decrease the quality and the safety for medical care with the idea, again, as I've already mentioned, non-medical people can do abortions and without, well, let me go, because it's a right of loss of conscience especially. This one scares me. If it passes, there's a possibility, it's a long shot, but it could happen, Birthright and CareNet could be out of business. All of the good both of those do for young and any age mom and dad, they could lose it. In California, one pregnancy center is also already being sued because they were telling a mom, several actually, the abortion pill can be reversed if you don't know it. And they were telling this young mom, she's coming in and she's crying, was crying apparently, I'm killing my baby, or I killed my baby. And they found out she took the abortion pill day before or 2 days before. Within 72 hours, it's the best chance is 24, but up to 72 hours, sometimes a little longer, that abortion is a process, that abortion pill can be reversed. They are being sued for malpractice. Lying to the patient. The loss of conscience protection for healthcare professionals, they have to. The doctor cannot refuse to do an abortion or change gender. If they had that skill, that would be their specialty or whatever, or part of their practice. They can't refuse without being sued. Doesn't mean they're going to get sued. Chances are probably, in my mind anyway, somebody else would do it, but they could be sued. A hospital can be litigated, long shot, but potentially close down a Catholic hospital, for instance, or a Christian hospital where they believe in the sanctity of life and with morals and good common sense. They could be sued, and it would cost potentially millions of dollars to fight a suit like that. So that loss of conscience protection for healthcare professionals and medical places implies loss, not implies, it'll be loss of free speech unless you want to risk a suit. Because if you say something like a pregnancy center in California is helping a young mom who's realizing what she's done, taking the abortion pill, they could be charged. They could be, not charged, but they could be sued. You guys can help. You guys and gals can help. But we got to, everybody get together. I'll come back, and I'm sure Tony will come back. Probably visit her mom will come back. We're all so dedicated, and Becky, we're all such strong pro-lifers. And I know you guys are too. But we will come back here again, Fred, if there's a time that you feel, yeah, we can get 30 or 40, whatever number, or more people, different people, whatever. So we're not going to just say, okay, we got 20 people. That's good. We're glad we got that. But if we can get a lot more, we will come back.
But shoot for October, everybody's paying more attention.
Say that again, Fred?
Shoot for October when people are paying more attention.
We can do that, but paper balloting will already be done. Starting probably September 7th, they're going out, so September 9th maybe they can start setting their ballots in. So we can still do it with October. Early voting starts, I think, about October 20th. So if we did it before that, we'd have a chance for early voting at least. Yes.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I can see that you're really passionate about what you're doing, and I thank you for that. I applaud you for that. Have you gone to the churches?
Which ones?
Churches.
Churches, plural.
Tony?
Well, here's what I will say. Here's what I will say. I did some research, okay, just as I was sitting here. 63% of Americans call themselves Christian. 4% of Americans take a biblical worldview. That is the problem. And if the pastors aren't talking to their congregation about these things, this is why we're in the mess that we're in.
Yes.
And this is why, right, we
Yes.
need God's help.
Oh, do we ever? Do we ever?
So I sit on the advisory committee to Frederick County Right to Life, and one of the things that I have proposed to them, and we've started to do, one of the largest denominations here in the state is Roman Catholic. John and I are both Catholics, as my wife and the young lady Liz that spoke here earlier. Another strong organization in the state is the Knights of Columbus. Bishop Laurie, that is almost all of the eastern part, all the way down to the beaches of the Baltimore Diocese, all the way across to Allegheny, shoots all the way across the northern part of the state, includes Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, and then you got the Washington Diocese. What I have proposed, and I have yet to get to Bishop Laurie, but that is my hope and prayer. He's a difficult man to get to, but he is also the Supreme Chaplain of the Knights of Columbus for the entire country. What I have been proposing to, and we've spoke to one Knights Council, we've started. Everything starts with one, and we're hoping to get them all. But my hope is, and this is what I was going to talk about, and you're leading right into it, is that the problem is we don't have money. And I know you didn't want to hear that. Here's the issue. You have to get the word out. Some of you know me, some of you don't. I was a previous county council member here. I've ran for office 4 different times here in the county, twice for the Board of Education, twice for county council. I was elected and ran from 14 to 18. Trying to get any initiative across, whether it's a politician running or an initiative, the biggest thing is educating folks and getting the word out. How do we do that? So my thought was, and that I pitched to the board at Frederick County Right to Life was, how about we go to the churches, and how about we can't go to the churches. You have to remember, they can't get involved in politics. The amendment, though, is not political. I just want to correct that, though. The amendment is not political. It's a moral wrong, and the church has every right to stand up against it, as do the Knights of Columbus. The Knights of Columbus cannot push political issues. So our thought process was, go to the Knights and ask them, we want every council to give, I'd like at least $1,000 from every council. There's hundreds of them in the state of Maryland. Okay? And then I want them to donate to either the Maryland Right to Life or the Frederick County Right to Life, where we will then produce the yard signs that would then be distributed at the churches. So imagine if you could get, and I don't know if you all realize just how large the Catholic churches are around the state. Right here in Frederick County, let's look at St. John's, 2,000 families. Let's look at St. Ignatius, 1,800 families. Let's look at Holy Family in Middletown, 1,500 families. You could look at St. Joseph's, 2,000 families in Buckystown. You can go to St. Timothy's, 1,500 families in Walkersville. You can go up to Emmitsburg. The Catholic community is still very large and vibrant. So the idea is, have we gone to the churches? That's where I'm encouraging us to go. I hope to get a meeting with Bishop Laurie. I'm working some channels, if you will. But that being said, it's very, very difficult to get the word out when you don't have money. I can assure you that the left is coming in with money. They're going to come in the fall, and as John said earlier, they're going to hit it hard. So how do we do that? This is just one option. So that was what I was telling Fred. Even for groups like this, though, is to say, for the next 2 months or so, if you raise money at each club meeting, donate it to Frederick County Right to Life. In turn, note on it, though, that we will then hopefully have larger amount of money then to produce signs to then come back so that we would distribute them and you would get them out. Imagine just one church here. I think of St. Ignatius in Urbana, where I attend often. What if after September, all of a sudden there's 700 signs that showed up in and around that community? I mean, you know how difficult it is for a politician to get a sign on, unless your name is Trone and you pay people to put them up illegally. But it is notification. The idea would be with QR codes and things like that. But you are spot on. But I will say this, the other thing that I found in talking to, and to me this is an oxymoronic person, but a pro-choice Catholic. Talking to a pro-choice Catholic that says, you know what, it's not my body, it's their decision, but then as soon as I say this, your tax dollars will pay for it now though. Well, then the story changes. So what we all have to understand is, and to win this battle, even for our politicians, I think it's very important that we grasp what's happened even with the Maryland, not just Maryland, but the national right to life. They've had to have a change of position. Remember, it used to just be, it's for the health of the mother, the life of the mother, or if it was for, we could not bend on those certain moral obligations, but they said, you know what if there's the health and safety of the mother, rape and incest, and what's the third one? There's a third one, but when they changed the language to the health and welfare of a mother, when they decided that they could support politicians that would do that, the numbers jumped 10 and 15% approval for that politician. So in many, many cases, a Republican would win and get in office. So it's like, are we compromising? It's hard to say. Do you get that R in the seat and you actually can push it? It's a tough question for those of us who think that abortion is just bad across the board. With the exception of, if you're trying to save the mother. As a Catholic, that's where I stand, but as someone who realizes that I want good, moral people in office, I certainly want them more than I want a person I know absolutely doesn't care. So that is our goal here, and we're willing to go anywhere. I mean, I've been hoping and praying that this has just been a start the last week. We're going to another council meeting on tomorrow night, Wednesday night, and we're just going to try and line up one right after the other. But yes, you're correct in your assessment.
Yeah, I think perhaps if individually, we would see our pastors individually and press them on it, that they have to. Otherwise, the congregation, most of them are not even educated about what's going on.
Right.
So
Well, and that's what we're trying to do.
It starts with the Church of Jesus Christ. That's it.
Yep.
It does, but then you have to have people willing. Are you willing to stand up to your pastor? Have you talked to your pastor personally?
My pastor would. We go to Leesburg.
So, and I don't mean to just say that flippantly. It's I know exactly what you're saying.
Right.
So you're talking. I'm the guy that does.
You drive around Frederick. There are some big churches here, and it baffles me why we have the laws that get passed and the officials that get elected in this county. When you pass and you see all of these churches packed, full, how do those people get elected? Because the church is weak. Because 4% of the so-called Christians have adopted a biblical worldview.
Yeah, I mean that's it. Without a doubt, it's a deeper discussion when you talk about that.
Yeah.
But our goal is to educate as many people as we possibly can. So whether it's 20 people here tonight, or like John said, if we come back, even we can do this quicker. We don't need to take an entire meeting. So Fred schedules something. He says, Tony, can you guys come back next month and just give me 15 minutes? Yeah. Trust me, we can explain this. What we did here, as a matter of fact, in a night's meeting, we get 10 minutes. I get 10 minutes, but then again, I'm also speaking to a group I know 100% where they are. The hard part is when I say, I need money. It's always the hardest part, and I'm not going to lie about that, but you know what? The truth is, we need to spread the word. Please don't be shy. John, actually, did you bring a bunch of cards tonight?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
A couple thousand.
We would ask you, take 50 cards with you. And like John said, I do it. I go to Home Depot. I leave them on the counter. You know, why not? Someone's going to pick them up. You don't know who's going to pick it up, but you just got to start doing everything we can. You know, people always say it's the most important election, for other reasons that Fred talks about with what's going on with Trump and all that. But for Maryland, I mean, can you imagine? We already have the right to have abortion up till the day of, sadly. I mean, this means so much to me. You know, here I am and my wife, you know, we're the parents of 11 children. You know, our youngest is 15, I get it, but you know, we're still out fighting this battle, and we'll never stop because it's so important. I mean, people think that, I don't really know what they think, but it's sad. It's all we can do is one group at a time, and you know, and just ask you to not be afraid to do it. And that's the other thing, hand cards out. But we do appreciate your time, and Fred, thanks for having us this evening.
I'm not done.
No, John's not done.
Turn that one off, please. Thank you. Thanks, Tony. That's why we travel together. This guy's good. The website, this PowerPoint comes from a group called healthnotharmmd.org, and it's on the bottom of those flyers at your seats. I'd encourage you to go there. One of the things that's there is, in case anybody would doubt about no amendments being allowed to change this amendment before it goes to the ballot from last year, at the bottom of the very bottom of this website, it'll show the hearing, Senate hearing from last year, where Republicans were saying, well, can you put a minimum age on? Let's put a minimum age on. Let's just talk about it, say it's abortion, whatever it might be. There's 4 different things. I can't think of the minutes, maybe 32, 35 minutes, something like that, but it'll tell you where to start, because it's hours long, I think. But it'll tell you where to start on that video to see the actual hearing from last year, where the Democrats, no, we're not going to do that. No, we're not going to do it. We got the votes. We didn't have a choice. But the Republicans made a pledge, or a plea, hoping, again, as I said before, some people would have enough morality, common sense to realize the insanity of this. If you want to volunteer, you can contact them. For sure, you can obviously contact Tony or me. You can, that's their email address, donate, but we encourage you to do what Tony said. A couple of different things. The United Kingdom in April made a decision, the National Health System, it's not the only health group in the United Kingdom, but they said we're not going to allow puberty blockers, puberty hormones to be given to anybody, any child under 16. And they have to be 16 or above. That shows at least some common sense. But again, there are other health groups in the UK where they still give it to 12. I think their limit is 12, though. One of the things we're going to be doing also with this money that we're raising is getting at least 2 banners made that we can hang over bridges. Tony, what's the one you've done before with another for just abortion? Parkview or something like that?
Something over bridges. We stand on 270.
At rush hour when traffic slows.
It's actually a nationwide effort. We stand
Baker Valley Road?
Pardon me?
Baker
At
Valley?
Baker Valley Road, you know.
Way to go, Fred.
We post,
I'll use it.
we hold signs up, we actually string them up across the highway. They do traffic counts, and it's actually done nationally by a gentleman, and then folks volunteer to another friend, but I'm drawing a blank.
Mike Bowersox.
Mike Bowersox runs it.
Yeah. Anyway, but we're going to have signs made, banners made, signs as well, as Tony said, but banners made, but we need the wording. Traffic slows down. It's going to be 270, and Tony was also suggesting over 75. So from about 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock on both of those, and then, Tony, what, 3 to 5:30 or 3 to 6 at night?
No, we just did it in the morning.
Well, we got to do it at night for this. We got to do so that's what we need volunteers for also. We also need volunteers the day of the election. Some of you, probably most of you, have already done it for different politicians. You go out and hand out a flyer, you know, vote for whoever, vote for Neil Parrott, whatever it might be. We need to hand them this. If they haven't reached it already, heard about it already, they will understand that flyer. Vote no for this, please. Parental rights. Yes, sir.
I can tell you from personal experience, there are not that many Jews in Frederick, but there are a lot of Jews in Maryland.
Yes,
Okay?
yes.
And Jews vote.
We're reaching out to them.
And Jews right now are under a lot of pressure.
Oh my gosh, are they ever?
And a lot of it has to do with the value of life. Not just the unborn child's life, but the
You're
value,
right. You're right.
the value of Jewish life. And I'm just going to tell you, like from a cultural point of view, that if I were you, I hear you talking about churches and stuff like that, but if I were you, I mean, Jews are traitors. I mean, I would say that Jews need support, and if you said, oh, well, we got this club, we got these people, and we need to, be together on various different issues. That's what I would do. I would reach out. If you need any help, I'm not a big wheeler dealer, but I do know people, there are people in Baltimore, and they all vote together.
I would love to have that information if you can share it. I know Deborah Bricado of Health Not Harm is working on, she's making contacts. I have no contacts.
You went to the Jewish leaders and you said, look, you need support. You need people to say, with stuff that's happening in Israel and everything that's happening there, and that you need to shake my hand, and I need to scratch your back and all that kind of stuff. That's what I would do.
Email me or call me with any information you have for any synagogue, any Jewish group in the state. But do you have any contact, or does anybody have any contact with?
In Silver Spring, Maryland, huge Jewish community. In Baltimore,
Pikesville area, yes,
it's huge. And the way the Orthodox community works is they're all for various different religious reasons. It's a very nuclear kind of community. So when you go down the road, like I used to live in Baltimore, every single home, every single one on the street I used to live in was Jew.
Where'd you live?
I used to live right on Bonning Road, right off of off of Park Heights Avenue.
Okay.
And I was kind of new to it myself, and I looked down the road and I said, well, man, this is a pretty Jewish place, and usually there's leaders of the community, and like I said, obviously Jews do not believe in aborting your children and stuff like this, but people, you need to know, like, what gets people going? What are people interested in?
Yeah. Where did you go to high school?
I went to high school right near College Park, near Riverdale and College Park. It was called Parkdale.
Okay. The reason I'm asking is that I went to Poly, Baltimore Poly. Anybody else go there? Male or female now?
My brother.
Oh, right. What year?
Let's see, 73.
I'm 63. Okay. Anyway, I wear my Poly hat typically, and I don't know if you ever heard about 40 Days for Life. It's a international program now. They've saved over 27,000 babies in the 14 years they've been in business. And they've shut down like 180 abortion mills around the world, but mostly in the States. They've had, I think, 300 and some abortion workers who quit because they were offering help. We can help you find a job. We'll support you. But I wear my Poly hat, and I was at 40 Days for Life back in the fall, I think it was, Pam. And Pam and Liz and Liz's younger sister, Christina, were out there, and she said, you go to Poly? I said, yeah. She said, I went to Poly. 50 years after me, I think. It was a while after me, but anyway, so that's sort of the wonderful friendship. And Pam, she's such an ideas person, as now as I'm finding out Liz is too, but she's brought so much to Frederick County Right to Life, as has Liz already in her first meeting. But just by the grace of God, we connected through my Poly hat and our high school together. But anyway, not together. But anyway, a couple other notes. And you went to City? Oh man, Pam and I are going to jump all over you real fast. City was a good school. Answer your question, I'm not sure your name, ma'am, about the churches, but we have a hard time reaching out to Protestant churches. Not reaching out, we reach out, but part of the problem is fighting abortion is very often considered a Catholic issue, something Catholics do, and there's still a stigma on Catholics in a lot of Protestant churches. So when we have an annual banquet, Dr. Alan King, Alan Keyes, thank you, Alan King, not sure where that came from. You know, he ran for president 20 years ago, whatever it was. But anyway, he spoke at our banquet 5 years ago. We have an annual banquet the last Friday in September, and we've never brought a speaker back in 16 years. But when we found out about this amendment, we knew we needed to get somebody who's going to set people on fire. And Alan King does it as good as anybody, as well as anybody. So he's going to be speaking September 28th, last Friday in September, if anybody wants to hear him. He's the type of person, he's always going to be speaking to the choir to some degree. But when we speak to the choir, we don't always get them on fire enough to go out and do something and follow through. They'll vote and they'll support us financially, but most people, I'm sure you guys see it here in your group, most people, as passionate as you are, rightfully so, for what you stand for, most people, with what I'm talking about, don't take that next step. Support us financially and everything else, but they won't take the next step to start talking to other people. That's what we need to have. We need to have people through the Conservative Club, Central Committee, any other group. And we would love to speak, I know Tony or Becky setting it up for me to speak, and Tony to speak to Central Committee, but if you have a church you want us to speak to, a group you want us to speak to, at your home or someplace, bring 10 people or so together, it could be 8, but bring some people together who would have an interest in hearing about this, and we'll reach out in any way we can. Every day of the week if we need to. We're that passionate about it, obviously, like you guys are passionate about the conservative values. Becky?
Tony, you do have at least one Protestant member on the board, too. If we found some Protestant churches, I'm sure she would go with you.
Misty, yes, thank you. Misty Lucenti is our vice president. Lucky her, she's in Italy right now for 2 weeks. But anyway, but Misty goes to Damascus Community Church? No, not community, it's a Lutheran church. Drawing a blank. Don't tell her, Pam, that I forgot her church. Anyway, but both her pastors are very pro-life. But I'm hoping they'll be able to make some contacts for us with other churches who are at least somewhat pro-life. There's other Protestant churches who are pro-life, but we just can't get them involved. We just need to get them involved. So far, we've been able to do very little with that. You know, I found out recently you can get the library to talk, as long as it's open to the public. We can have talks at the library. 8 libraries in the county, and I'll go to any one of them if I can get some people to come out. So if you know of anybody that you think you could get some people to come to the library, we can select a night. It could be a daytime. I don't care. I'm retired. It could be a daytime or night, whatever. We can even do it on Zoom. Friend, I'm going to give you my card. And you guys call me, email me. It doesn't make any difference. Either way is fine. Whatever's easier for you. But if you can think of some people that would be interested in hearing it, maybe come out. It's not going to go an hour and 10 minutes. But again, like Tony said, we can do it in 15. If we got a library, I'd take at least a half hour. At least a half hour. And then questions. Tony? Thank you for that reminder. Yes, Scott.
I'm going to show my ignorance by asking a very basic question. Colt Black told me a month ago that he thought Neil Parrott, thank you, he really needed to come off the pro-life stance because he wanted to get elected. He was very, very adamant. You know, he's all worked up. He's saying, he's like, you got to support marijuana and you got to support abortion. Otherwise, you're not going to get elected. My question to you is this a Republican-Democrat thing? Is this, I mean, when we talk about the churches, do they let the Democrats in church?
You'd be better answering that than me, Tony. Go ahead.
Let me clarify that.
the position, and maybe, and I can't speak for Colt. Okay. And I do like Colt, and I like where he stands in terms of, he's running for the Board of Ed, and I think he's a great individual to do well there. If he says you have to stand for the board, I totally disagree with him. I think that's absolutely wrong. What I was saying earlier is how you take a position on what the general public feels is acceptable to a certain degree for an individual. And it might be splitting hairs, and you know, I mean, God might strike me dead right now in terms of like what I'm saying, because to say that it's for the health and safety of a mother, it stretches it just enough for people to think that we're just totally against a woman's rights, because that's what the left has done. They flipped it on this idea that it's all about a woman's right, and they forgot all about that beautiful life that was created and growing inside of them.
Yeah.
And what we're saying is we understand and we respect that, and we want you to have an opportunity to at least think it through. But you can't. If Colt said that, I would disagree with him strongly, vehemently, publicly, and I would not endorse him. If he believes that abortion is the only way to get elected, I could not support that.
Tony, I mean, if you go on his website, he does have pro-life things on his website. We've had some discussions at the Frederick Central Committee, and it seems like, you know, from Jesse Pippy down, most of them are saying that, yeah, if you go out and you make pro-life the focus of your campaign, you're not going to get elected. Look at where we are. We're in Maryland with all the Democrats.
And that's what I'm trying to understand.
And that's what Tony's trying to say. So if the Republicans, it makes it really tricky.
So is the
And
issue
especially right now with
political?
this amendment.
We would like to make it not political. That's why we're not talking about it in that regard. This is why when I say to people, your taxes are now going to pay for an abortion, you might be personally pro-choice. But as soon as you have to pay for it, your conscience starts to kick in. You personally would. I have a friend of mine that has 6 daughters. This is a sad thing. She has 6 daughters, and they're all pro-choice. Does that make any sense? Here's a woman that's been open to life her entire life, but yet she thinks it's still this. She's been brainwashed.
Right, they've been indoctrinated.
They've been indoctrinated. So do I come at her hard with confidence? No, she's a great friend. We have great discussions. But the point is, it's like, how do you get that mentality? Like, well, hold on, as soon as you're going to pay for it, like, I wouldn't have one, but you can have one.
Right.
But if you're going to have one now, if I have to pay for it, well, maybe I'm going to stop there. Maybe, let's face it, I mean, as a bigger picture, that's where we need to be. It's sad. We've taken life and we've said it's not important. There's no doubt about that. But that position that Colt, it's sad that what Colt said to you came across that way, because I hear what he's saying. Because if you say you're pro-abortion in this state, yeah, you can get elected. If you're a Democrat, okay, you just write those people off your plate. You got all their votes.
Hogan's a good example.
Yes.
A different discussion, but you know, here I am as someone who supported Hogan through 2 terms, not really strongly the second term, but was very, very disappointed. But if you're going to ask me, do I want Hogan in office in D.C. as compared to also Brooks? I want Hogan.
Yeah.
I'd rather have Hogan be a mediocre, middle-of-the-road Republican with an R that gives what is a more and more growing support of hard, right people, if you're going to define people, in our Senate and give them the opportunity with Trump as president, then I want Hogan down there. And I've argued hard for my friends that said, I'm not voting for Hogan for anything. Well, I say you're a fool.
Yes.
Then you just give it to Officer Brooks. I'm sorry, I can't agree with you.
He's had to tamp down his abortion stance.
Well, he's had to understand that, you know, he can take the same position that, that the national right to life is taking.
Right.
Thank you.
Can I get in a few comments? I appreciate all these thoughts and remarks and appreciate the effort. I want to help. I'm a Catholic from Emmitsburg. I've been in the county for a couple years. I can't vote for Hogan. I don't know how we can vote for a so-called pro-choice Catholic Republican like Hogan. He's a disgrace. Yes. And we fought, 20 minutes down the road from Gettysburg. we fought a civil war over whether the country was going to be half slave or half free, and we decided it was going to be free. And that freedom has to extend to the unborn, the innocent unborn. And if you vote for a so-called pro-choice Republican, you're compromised. Your soul is compromised. You are making a deal with the devil, in my opinion. The best thing the Republican Party of Maryland could do, and this is where I think we ought to put our pressure, withdraw their endorsement of Larry Hogan on this issue and others. You say, well, he's going to be Republican in the Senate, he'll vote for other Republicans. He'll be nothing but a thorn in the side of a President Trump. He'll be another Mitt Romney, except Romney was at least pro-life. And what's going to stop Hogan, if he gets elected, from changing his party affiliation?
Exactly.
Going independent or even Democrat. Nothing's going to stop him. He doesn't want our votes. He's campaigning for Democrat votes. And I think the best thing you can do is form an adjunct of your Frederick County Right to Life, pro-lifers against Hogan. That doesn't mean you're going to vote for also Brooks, but you're going to send a message that you don't deny the rights of the most innocent, vulnerable in our society. And if you do, we're not going to support you. One final word, the Catholic Church. I'm a Catholic. The Catholic Church is morally bankrupt. The Archdiocese of Baltimore is going bankrupt. They've declared bankruptcy. You know that? Yeah. Because of the child sex abuse scandals? Yes. So going to somebody like Archbishop Laurie for support, he has no credibility. He's part of the hierarchy. He's part of the problem.
We still have to try.
That's going to compromise you by going to those who are compromised and begging for money. I'll tell you what, as a Catholic myself, I go to church, but I won't give 1 red cent to the Catholic hierarchy. I only give money to the local poor. So don't go begging to him or any of the other members of the hierarchy for money.
We're not requesting, we're not asking him for money.
So I'm not interested.
Well, don't even ask for his voice, because he is morally compromised. He's presiding over a bankruptcy of his archdiocese, for crying out loud. Now they're trying to stiff all these child abuse victims and pay them off with your money that you give on Sunday. I say give up on the Catholic Church and go in different directions.
I won't digress, and I'd be happy to talk about that more privately. I know a little bit more than I'll say here about those kind of issues. I can tell you right now, your money in the pew is not going to pay off child abuse victims. That's a fact. I don't want to make people think that the church is doing that, because that is totally not true.
Thank you.
That being said, I'm not looking for Lori, and I don't even know if I get a meeting with him. Okay, my hope is to get the meeting more with the Supreme Knight of Maryland, who Lori is the Supreme Chancellor or the Supreme Pastor, if you will, of all the Knights of Columbus in the entire country. Like it or hate it, doesn't matter to me. My point is to try to get the Knights of Columbus Council, who are all good men like me and you, who value everything you just said.
You know, I have to ask Lori for that.
If it's complicated, I'll just say this, that with his blessing, if you will, like it or not, it doesn't even have to be public, but if he gives a nod to the Supreme, what am I thinking, the state deputy is what we call the head person of the Knights Company. If he gives the nod to the state deputy to let us do what we want to do, then I can have thousands of these signs with QR codes all across the state of Maryland. I'm not going to give up hope on that. Maybe it's a fool's journey, but the other issues you mentioned are valid, but I'll just leave it at that. It's if we do nothing, then I know that also Brooks gets elected in that race. If I do nothing, then I know I've given nothing to myself, and Jesus asked me to do one thing: just give me what you got, buddy. This is what I got. And if he's going to condemn me for trying to get an R, I think the discussion gets a little bit bigger. I mean, the Catholic Church speaks to that. I do not agree that the Catholic Church is morally bankrupt either, but like I said, that's a different discussion.
Thank you, Denny. Thank you for the questions, the comments. I don't agree either. President Trump got elected in 16, the most pro-life president we've ever had. Now, he's backed off a little bit in public. Is that me? He is pro-life, I tell you. He is pro-life. Father Frank Pavone met him. I've talked with Father Frank Pavone when Trump was running in 16. He said he is pro-life. Part of the problem, though, by having to back off a little bit, is if he comes across strongly as pro-life, that will hurt him. Anyway, yeah.
Real quick, Mike just got back to me. It's pro-life bridges. We're doing it on the 21st of July.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Tony. Thank you, Tony. Liz, would you come up and share your thoughts about the live action news conference?
So recently I've been working with Students for Life and Live Action, and their new take on the pro-life movement is to try and help people to see the preborn as humans and that they need rights. And so by the way that they're doing this is they're using the 14th Amendment, which was ratified after civil rights issues, that all people are equal.
Civil War.
Like the civil rights
Yeah,
in
the Civil War.
1900s.
No, they don't. It's up for civil war.
This is the 14th.
Yeah, the 13th was says we should legal, and the 14th all people are.
Okay, sorry. So the 14th Amendment states that all people are equal. And so recently, that with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, that we have, the pro-life movement has started to say, well, if all people are equal, and if the preborn are humans, then they should have equal rights as I do, or all of us do. And something else that they're doing is they're changing the term, using unborn, and they're starting to use preborn so that we can see it more. It's just to help us and to help other people to see the preborn as humans. And so that's what the new movement is to just try and help people to understand that they deserve rights as much as we do. And so.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you, Liz.
Everybody, thank you very much for having us, and thank you for your gracious welcome, everybody.
John, thank you very much. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Fred.
Word of advice. If you try to talk to people about this issue, about what are they calling it? The
reproductive freedom. Reproductive freedom.
Reproductive freedom. Abortion has been law in Maryland since 1991. You're not going to take away their abortion rights. What you need to do so that wall does not go up is talk about the gender reassignment. That is closer to home for people. They think it's ridiculous. It's a mental illness, which I agree with. And that, yes, we are, as Maryland residents, we are going to be paying for this. You know, they say your taxes aren't going up. Bull crap. Your taxes are going up. As long as Medicare and Medicaid are paying for it, we're going to be paying for it. Now, please, we're going to do this again. I expect everybody here to bring at least 2 people with them. I want to fill this room, both sides of this room. It makes no sense for something this important that they're going to codify into our Constitution, state constitution. Everybody should be ranting and raving about this. Your houses of worship. If your pastor will not talk about it, find another church. It is absolutely his right and the church's right to speak about this. This is how the revolution started. It started in the churches. This is our Lexington Concord moment. And you may not understand what that is. I hope you do. Anyhow, I thank you all for coming out tonight. John, something else?
One thing I forgot, we got them up here, is also, as Tony mentioned, we had 300 some cards here, and I got about 800 more in the car. So anybody can take 50 cards, as Tony said, whatever number you need. And if you need more, Fred has got my card with my email and phone number. We'll put up 5,000, 10,000 more, whatever we need to do to get the word out. But here is something, I'll have this up here also. It's an increased healthcare cost for all Marylanders. This was a shocker to me. It goes through the different gender change things that could be changed. And the third one, is hysterectomy. This is an every year problem or cost that our taxes are going to be paying for. Almost $18,000 a year for the drugs, et cetera, to go for these different procedures.
Per patient.
Per patient, thank you.
Per patient.
If that person lives 50 years, that's almost $900,000. They're coming out of our taxes for Medicaid anyway. So take these, again, take any amount you want, and if you need more of anything, I'll get it to you within a couple of days. Thank you again, Fred.
All right, every month we try to do a door prize, usually books. Liz, would you like to come up and pull the first number? Our first book is called A Ballad of Donald J. Trump. The gentleman contacted me on Facebook, and it's a story of the 45th president in poetic prose. So I probably paid too much for him, but he gave me a good sales pitch, and I liked what I read. So first one goes to 823-255.
Hey, hey.
There you go, Becky. Another one, Liz. Next book is called Statesmanship, Selections of Xenophon to Churchill. Now, I saw this gentleman on Tucker Carlson, and he picked out the characteristics of all the great leaders from ancient times all the way up to Winston Churchill. And the foreword's by Larry Arnn from Hillsdale College. This one goes to 823-250.
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. This is great.
Yeah. Back to the ballad of Donald Trump. Liz. 823-254.
Oh, there we go. That's me.
Oh. Levi.
Cameraman's getting lucky
Did you
today.
make your donation?
I sure did.
You sure did.
Sure did.
Absolutely.
I'm broke now. Thank you very much.
This is our videographer,
Yeah.
Levi Trumbull.
I'll get it out to you guys. Thank you guys. Appreciate it. Good stuff right here. Wow, this is nice. Look at this.
Last but not least, the man's brain I wish I had, Victor David Hanson. The End of Everything. How Wars Descend into Annihilation. So, Eight, 246. You got it.
Oh, Victor Davis Hanson.
Thank you. Glad to see our youth getting involved. Everybody, thank you for coming out tonight. Traffic safe. Please spread the word. And
Are you taking other collections, donations tonight from Right to Life?
sure.
Where's the basket? We'll see the, John.
Who wants to clerk?
John.
John? There you go. All right, girl. Thank you very much.
My papa had to thank you for speaking out. What she said, it's how I learn. It's how I learn stuff, is listening to other people's opinion and looking at it. Well, then like today, everyone's scared to speak out loud. You know, sit there for an hour and say, everyone wants to talk. You know, most people won't say anything because they're worried if someone's going to say, oh, you're a bad person. You think that? And next thing you know, no one ever talks. We all do that.
We're so passionate.
A lot of this stuff, you just basically said,